Hello.
Good morning, Luân.
Hey, good morning, Abhishek. Thank you for being here, but just to give me a minute, I just want to set the protocol so they know how to put question. So chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại cái chương trình chúng ta hôm nay. Cái phần tiếp theo á, Luân sẽ cùng với một ông Abhishek và Trâm sẽ nói về cái và trong lúc mình nói sẽ bằng tiếng Anh, nên luôn nhờ ban tổ chức chiếu lại luôn cái slide về bằng cách nào các bạn có thể nghe được tiếng Việt nếu các bạn chọn nghe tiếng Việt. Okay. Khi các bạn muốn nghe tiếng Việt á, trong Zoom á, các bạn click vô cái interpretation và chọn Vietnamese và chọn tiếp cái dòng phía sau đó là mute original audio. Thì bằng cách làm như vậy á, các bạn sẽ không có phải nghe cái tiếng Anh từ Luân mà nghe các bạn dịch từ LCV nhá. Còn nếu các bạn muốn có câu hỏi thì các bạn click vô Q&A. Nếu các bạn muốn chat thì các bạn vô ô chat. Ok. Rồi. Vậy để chúng ta bắt đầu á, thì Luân xin phép được nói bằng tiếng Anh. Ok. So now every one of us understand. Okay, so coaching is nothing new, yeah. At least for at least the audience we are here today. Everyone knows coach, the coaches, and everything. But then the question is, it works for us as a coachee. Does it work for corporation? Yeah, and we talked about it last year. About the coaching culture for organizations. But there are many misunderstandings, and for a year went by. There's a lot of things we can reflect and maybe to do better this time. And that's why we have today Trâm, the one who deploy coaching in corporations, and Mr. Abhishek Mathur. Just before I give the mic to you, Abhishek, I just want to say thank you for being with us today. Abhishek is a senior global human resource with, I think, more than 20 years experience working in different geographies and working in different industries. I believe you work or have working experience with Tata Motors, Mathur, GE, and a lot more, Johnson & Johnson. I'm sure you're going to talk about it. And today, he is the Chief People Officer of VNG Corporation in Vietnam. So once again, thank you very much for being with us today, Abhishek. And I give you 3 minutes to talk about yourself before I start the debate.
Thank you, Luân. I don't have 3 minutes to talk about myself, but I really thank you for that kind introduction. Also, I wanted to thank LCV for organizing this event and also inviting me for the session. I'm truly excited to be here. Apart from what you have shared, the only thing that I would want to add to myself, to a little bit of my introduction, is that while as an HR professional, there were several moments where I would have coached fellow colleagues, but without understanding the concepts, right? As an HR professional, that's part of. So I truly started my coaching journey in 2017 when I consciously decided to get myself certified as an NLP practitioner, as well as an ICF ACC certification. So getting those concepts and getting those experiences just helped understand a little bit about myself. I think that journey of coaching certification and NLP does help you with that. But then I think as an HR professional now in VNG, you are able to therefore understand some of those conversations and deliberate in some of those interventions. So I think that's just to add to what you've shared, and I'm absolutely looking forward to sharing some of those experiences while coaching in some of the organizations that I've worked, as well as learning from all of you in the next hour or so. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Abhishek. And our second speaker is the famous Trâm. And look, I apologize if I cross or I make the debate too hot. I decided just now that I would to dial up one notch, so we have more debate. Okay, so Trâm, last year you talked about coaching in corporations, okay? And I remember we have speakers talking about their own experience in deploying this. Now, I will ask you to recap what is coaching culture in an organization, but I find it too easy for you to go with that. Okay, when doing that, what I need you to explain to me is this: in an organization, if I have give me a minute.
I just want to say hi to everyone. In case someone new in this session and haven't joined the previous one, I'm the head of product of LCV and also, a coach. And previously, I was a HR leader in HR managers in multinational companies as well. So I have both experience in working internally as someone who build the culture and people development, organization development from inside. And then I moved to the coaching area, being someone from outside going in to work with our clients to help them to build all of this coaching skill, coaching culture, and people development things, leadership development things within for their organizations. So that's why I'm here today with those two hats. Yeah.
Okay. With that introduction, the problem I have is, as an organization, we get a few managers, key, high level, a coach, right? So we coach them. Mm-hmm. And we had a training for 2 days on coaching, okay? Yeah. Now, you will have to tell us what is coaching culture in the organization. But also, can you explain, if I do all of this, I just said, can I claim that my company or any organization is embedding a culture of coaching?
Yeah, thank you, Luân. I think you have just shared about some of the realities that what's going on right now in the market and what people really do and claim and talk about coaching and coaching culture in the organization. So first of all, let me start with the definition of a coaching culture first. When we talk about a coaching culture, it's an environment. It's a mindset that is a very common and popular within organizations, and it's the common mindset from top level to the down layers, to the down levels across the functionals. So it's not only activities. It's definitely not activities. It's the mindset and the environment that people are living on and living with. So what is the coaching culture? It's the coaching mindset embedded in every activities of the organizations, and it's the coaching conversations can be embedded in every single conversations of the organizations. So let me explain. There are 3 types of conversations that can have during a day happening in an organization. The first one is a very directing one, guiding one, which is from someone who senior, more experienced, especially the managers and the leaders, telling their people, like that telling conversation, telling their people what to do. Hey, this is what I know, and this is what you should do. It sounds familiar to you, Luân? I'm kidding. But that's the a very old school style, and I believe that nowadays it's not that heavy and it's not that popular anymore when people are become more open and listening more and so on. But now we move to the second type of conversations or dialogues, which is we call the discussion. So in the discussion conversation where people share opinions and share ideas, it's still the percentage is still, you know, focused on who has the answer already, or who knows, or who has the experience already, will have a louder voice, will have a bigger voice to say and to tell the group what to do, or tell the people on the other side what to do. And this is what I know. And it still, you know, limits the timing and the focus for someone who are seen as less experienced. So that's the discussion that we talk about. It's again more open, but not the coaching conversation yet. So what the coaching conversation looks like, it would be, the spotlight will be on the other side, not from the leader or not from the senior one, but the spotlight is on the other side, the person who's seen as less experienced, or, you know, at a lower hierarchy, at a lower level in the team. But they can freely speak up and freely give feedbacks and freely say what they think and what ideas they got. And it starts from the leaders or the senior people on this side to really keep the not knowing mindset. I don't know what is the best. I don't know what is the, you know, I don't have the best idea for this. And the second thing is also starts from the senior people from this side, believing in the other person, that person will know his work best. That person will know what to do and will have the best answers for, you know, the situation or the problem that he's facing with. So that's the first, as I said, it's an environment that everyone feels safe, feel, you know, free to be themselves, feel free to speak up. And that's about the environment, the psychological safety that we're talking about in the organization today. And the second one, it starts from the mindset, from very top level to the lower levels, that people come in to the discussion, come into the meeting and the conversation with the not knowing mindset. I don't know the answer. And the belief that the other person will know and will have the, you know, the best solution for his or her own team's problem or situation.
Hearing you this, I just want to connect, and I don't know if Abhishek were there, but in the first section in this morning, Abhishek talked about the pressure, the fragmentation, the complexity on us to prove that we are worth it. You know, we have to achieve A, B, C, D. We look at destination versus the journey. And then listen to you on the spotlight is on the other side. It's a coaching, you know, in my definition, it's not about you as a manager, it's about the person who talks to you, how to ignite the new awareness and creativity. But the shift from me to you is a big challenge. I want Abhishek to give your opinion on just what Trâm just said.
So, thank you. So actually, Trâm has pretty much summarized what our conversation is all about. We can all go home and just take what Trâm has just mentioned. I actually had exactly the same thoughts. For me, just getting a training done for managers or assigning a coach to some people is just not creating a coaching culture. But I think what Trâm has really articulated here is, and I think the key words that she used about is the mindset, is about having the right conversations. And I think the highlight was the psychological safety as an organization that we need to build, which is so basic, fundamental block if you have to really put in a coaching culture in an organization. Because coaching as we all understand is about discovering what we don't know together, and therefore becoming a better self and getting a better solution in the process. And psychological safety is one aspect which helps people in the organization to raise their hand and say that I don't know, I need help, and can we therefore work together? So it's more about collaborative approach rather than just an individual approach. What you were just talking about is not me but we, or getting the spotlight to the other person. So that's, but how do we do that? Because the culture of our organizations in generally is about who is better. It's about individual performance. It is about taking quick decisions because we need to move forward. There are problems to be solved and things to be done. And therefore, there is very limited pause time that the managers and the individuals are doing. And that is, we all understand that that's possible. That is reality. There will be certain decisions where there will be directive approach, but the managers need to understand where to be directive and where to be a coach. And that's something that you can teach, but it can only be mastered through experience. And that's where, as managers, they need help in terms of coaches who can make them honest as good managers and leaders, and for employees to have that confidence that I can actually reach out to people in this organization to say that I'm struggling, I don't know, and it does not therefore affect their performance ratings, or it does not affect their career ambitions and things like that. And that overall aspect is how we build a coaching culture, rather than just having those coaching trainings, or just appoint a coach for a few individuals and then claim that we are having a coaching culture.
One thing though, I can speak for myself as a non-HR. That's the last question the company will send me to, HR. And I'm not a coach professionally. Okay, I'm speaking from a business side, if you may. Right, and you mentioned that Abhishek, about psychological safety. It's easier said than done, right? Because as a manager, I need not only to impress my boss, I not only need to impress my peers, but also to convince to my team that I know and I am a leader. The pressure is always there, okay? So finding a good balance and create a safe environment between directives, as you say, there's things I just say, shut up and do it, and things that I'm willing to listen without judgment on, and then we together find the solution. How do you do this balance?
There's no one approach that I have at least experienced, and I'm happy to learn from the group here as well. But how I have at least seen in my own managerial and leadership experience, as well as working with other leaders and managers, is that you do it's a trial and error. There will be so the first thing that you need to instill in a manager is a sense of security. An insecure manager who has to prove every day that he's better than others will never be able to help develop a psychological safety within the team, because that person himself or herself is insecure about their role in their organization or in the team. The first of the things that you have to therefore instill with that individual is the reason that you are the leader of a team is because you are good enough. And that's the starting point. And now you start, what got you to this role is your individual brilliance, individual contribution, your ability to work with people and things like that. And then you kind of instill that confidence in that manager, because a lot of times many managers are self-doubting themselves that, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? Right? So you kind of therefore help those managers to overcome that particular doubt. And once you have that, then they will be able to therefore open up and have those conversations, and that's saying that, okay, I probably may not know the full answer, but can we then have a conversation? Can we have other ideas, etc. So it's that conversation with people managers that is important, because many a times I've seen brilliant individual minds as managers not being good people managers because of the insecurity. And therefore the inability to create an environment where everybody is secure in their roles. And so that would be the first go-to aspect, and that's where coaching helps for that manager, because many a times the managers that's their blind spot. Those are the vulnerability that they are probably dealing with, and an external help would just help them overcome that chasm that they have.
I like that. I like that point you raised about insecurity. And with that, I want to ask Trâm, when you deploy coaching for organization, do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree with Abhishek on the point that when someone feels insecure, they cannot be the best of themselves. They cannot, either work or life, so creating that and acknowledging. So I think from the organizational side or leaders side, if you really want to embed this, and if you really want to grow this the coaching culture things for the organization, or psychological safety for the organization, it starts from you. It starts from you. If you yourself has the pressure that you have to know everything and you have to prove yourself, you have to focus on your performance. I mean, the appearance, the performance on the surface, rather than feel really safe and feel really safe and comfortable to be in your own skin. That's why you cannot be your best self either. So if you are a leader and you still have to worry about how you look, how people perceive you, and you feel the pressure of you have to be the answer for everything, that's why you don't have the psychological safety for yourself. So it starts from yourself first. I worked with a team, with a very young technology company, very young team, from the CEO to the executive teams and all the whole team across the organization, a big one, but very young. And when we interview one by one, we came there and worked with the executive team of the organizations, 10 people, and we interview one by one. They really admire and love their leader there. And he's in the team and he's in the group that we worked together for a few days as well. But we conducted the individual conversation interview with them before going to that training session. They love the leader, they admire the leader. And the reason for them to admire that guy is nothing about, he knows everything or he always makes the right decision. Nothing about that. Nothing about that. They talk much about how he treated them, how he trusted them, and how he let them to speak their own voice, and how he let them make mistakes and accept their mistakes. And that's awesome. That's awesome. And for me, that's a very obvious example of a coaching culture, or very close, although they have never talked about coaching in their organizations, but they are very close to that, where people feel safe and they don't have that expectation towards the leaders, and the leaders didn't have the pressure to prove themselves. So it starts from there first. If the leaders can show that it's okay to make mistake, it's okay and I'm vulnerable enough and I'm brave enough to say that I don't know, then that's where you can help your people to say that it's a accepted behavior. It's okay not to know, and it's okay to say it out loud that I don't know. Hey, let's work together and and stop caring about the appearance or the surface performance and how we look. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Luân, but yeah.
Thank you. So what I hear so far is address the insecurity in order to create a safe environment to address the insecurity. You need the voice from the top. Yeah, that's the voice from the top from Trump. Abhishek, what else?
So the second thing is developing capability of having, and I think what Chum had mentioned about the conversations. So one is, once if I have understood myself, then I need also the capability to then express and go out and have those conversations, right? And that is also a cultural nuance. In Asia, especially Southeast Asia, we are as managers, we are very hesitant to having difficult conversations. So if I have to give feedback, I will not, I'll not go direct or I'll have that conversation. I'll try to avoid or not, or use a language which will be very garbled and not really send the message to the other individual that yes, there is something that needs to be worked on, right? And that again, as we were talking about, as a culture, as a team, that you need to build those capabilities in individuals, people managers, to be able to have those difficult conversations, to be able to provide constructive feedback. And for our employees to be able to understand and have a conversation. Like you don't need to really take whatever your manager is saying, but have a conversation to understand and think like. So that's one. So the capability of having difficult conversations. The second is capability to, as I think Chum did mention around as part of the conversation, is not knowing and therefore asking, being curious and asking questions. Most of the time, because the way we have been grown up in the corporate life, where we are a lot more assertive, aggressive, and we are always in a solutioning mode. We don't pause and say that, okay, what is it that we are trying to solve? What is it that the situation is? And ask those questions. And I don't think so. We also train our managers in being curious and asking right questions, unfortunately. So those would be the two aspects from a capability standpoint in the context of building a coaching culture is the capability aspect of it. These two would be my first.
Okay, thank you. But allow me to go a bit deeper, right?
Sure.
And I do not want to generalize, but hearing you and John said about doing this and that, doing this, can you give me specific? And that's one of the questions from Nguyễn, nghĩa. He said, give me something very specific things, activity, action that I can do to promote a safety environment in the organization.
Okay, so I can share, and I'm sure Chum would have multiple examples from different organizations, but I could share some ones recently from VNG. So we have started on this journey a few years ago, and we didn't go all out for entire VNG. We kind of piloted it with one of our businesses, where the business head was aligned to having that approach. And we did not talk about a coaching culture. We said that we want, from a business standpoint, one of the largest business, which is the game entertainment business, needs to fundamentally change the way we are working. We, as an organization, as a business, we were very much focused on Vietnam, and we were the largest game publishing business in Vietnam. But now that we want to go out and conquer our international markets, there is a fundamental change in the way we have to work between the teams. And that got us to think as to how do we really work and build an organization where we are able to collaborate. We have to break some of the silos of the different studios so that they can work with different countries and markets. So that was a business need, which then got into saying that, okay, we have to fundamentally change the way we work, which then have to go about in terms of working with the managers and the department heads to say that what is happening right now, will it help you to go international and be successful internationally? And if not, then what do we need to therefore do differently? So all of that started having this conversation. The second was, from a psychological safety standpoint, I think as an organization, we did have, because one of our fundamental tenets is embracing challenges, which is all about going out, experimenting, do what you think is right from an organization perspective. If you make a mistake, if you fail, that is okay. Let's regroup. Let's learn from those, so that so as a culture we did have, but specifically as we were growing internationally, we said that these are some of the things that we have to do differently. Right? So that was the second thing. And then we then looked at what were the fundamental reasons why people were not collaborating, and so it was more to do with how we incentivized our different studios in terms of they were looking at incentivized success of their game. So all of that put together, we kind of started looking at individual profiles. We got them to understand what were some of the areas of development that they had. So we use psychometric assessments to gain profiles and have individual conversations with individuals. We did, therefore, in order for them to be open for outside ideas of improving, we actually had LCV actually do a coaching training and then individually have some coaching moments with them, which kind of just opened their mind and they were open to external ideas. And then we also changed some of our incentive programs around how they need to collaborate with different businesses. And over the last couple of years, we can see that it's a team which is a lot more cohesive, a lot more collaborative. There have been much more successes than failures in terms of how we've launched new games outside. And I think we are in a position where we can really accelerate our growth in international markets because the team is working so wonderfully together. So if that example kind of just gives you a little perspective of how the business decision kind of got us to rethink of how we want to work with people and give them that opportunity to build coaching.
Any?
Yeah, sure. I'm interested in this one. And I put it this way, I don't want to generalize either, but in fact, this is my observations. We, in many teams, let's say from the top executive teams together, or down a layer within a functions, a management team within a functions, we have some issues. The relationship, the conflicts, the working environmental issues within that team. But when people gather together, we tend to talk about the process. We tend to talk about the work. You know what I mean? That's what we focus to talk about. We say, hey, we have problem here. The process is not effective or not efficiency here, and let's talk together on how to fix those, on how to move forward in those. So we focus a lot on work things, and we ignore the let's say the elephant in the room. that's a word that people use a lot. That the real tension among the team about the emotion side, the emotional side, the feelings that the teams having to work together, having to working together, is rarely mentioned. So, and we think that we are keeping professional. You know what I mean? When just keep talk about work and how we can fix that and how we can work better together. But all those tensions are elephants in the room and rarely mentioned. So we, LCV, we did work with few teams. I would say not so many teams are willing to do that. But the management team together, getting together for 1 or 2 days, openly talk about that. How frustrated I am. The operations feel frustrated when working with sales team, or something like that, or marketing feels so frustrated when working with accounting team, for example, and they are allowed to openly talk about it. This is how I feel. This is how frustrated I am. This is how uncomfortable I am. I feel when working with that kind of working style, or you know, I don't feel trust, I don't feel respected with that kind of, and those things we rarely talked about or mentioned directly when we talk about, you know, when a management team gather together. We think that we are keeping professional, we think that we are future focused and how to move forward, and we ignore the real elephants in the room. Okay. So yeah, that's a specific example of how we can start, you know, to address. And that's what I would like to add on, that before talking about, you know, coaching culture and doing this, doing that, let's face with the reality, and let have everyone have a room to, you know, release all those tensions and face with the reality and have the awareness of the reality together. We once worked with LCV. I was not there, but the team shared with me that the team got opportunity to work with a management team of a big, really big company, 10, 11 leaders journeying together in 2 days. They're fighting, of course, not physically, you know, but they really shared all those that they had never been allowed to talk about. And one of the facilitators was really about, you know, but if we keep talking like this, how can we have like a, you know, come to the agreement at the end, and how to make everyone happy at the end? And a very senior facilitator, let's say the Dr. Sherry Passcode, the mother of coaching, she was the facilitator of that session, and she said, "Why do we need the happy ending here? Why do we need the happy ending? Why don't face that, you know, reality?" And that's something I think, and we have the popular tendency to avoid. But if we let our people to have opportunity to talk about it, I believe that it will change very much after that, when all those tensions was released, and people feel like they can talk about something that really burdened them, really bothered them, but never talked about. When they can talk about it, everything would start to open up. That's an example that I can give. Yeah.
Very interesting, and I hope Nghĩa, Mr. Nghĩa and em would satisfy with the answer. But I like particularly, you know, like we cannot have psychological safety if psychologically we hide it.
Exactly.
Right. So in a way, if, you know, let it out, right or wrong, let it out and talk about it. That's the first thing I learned. The second one from Abhishek about experiment, and this is related to what, you know, the organization I work for is trying to do. You know, the concept of, you know, to build trust and the willing to accept failures. The experiment is very important. If you fail fast. Yeah, fail fast. You learn from it and you move. The only thing we don't want is you fail fast and you failed again. That's your career. But that's by agreeing or accepting this failure through experiment, we build trust, and that's the safety that we need. Okay. Now just go back to Abhishek a bit on. Do you see the impact of deploying whatever you're deploying so far to your organization?
Yeah. So for sure, we see the impact. The business is seeing a much better collaboration. One of the reasons why we say that is not because there is still friction. There will still be tensions, etc. But we do a 360 survey on for our leaders every year, and one of the aspects that we kind of get feedback on from the teams is around collaboration, and we have seen the scores improve over the last 2 years on how different teams within the business are therefore working together. So that's one way of saying that, okay, this is what we started off, that our scores on collaboration and the feeling that we all have is not there. And 2 years hence, we are able to not only quantify, but also feel and perceive a better working environment from that perspective. So to answer to your question, absolutely. the business does see. It's luckily also being seen in revenues, in the game launches and things like that. But not every intervention can be quantified in a short period of time. And I know there were a few questions there as well as to how do you quantify and return on investment and things like that. But as coaches or as HR professionals, I think we need to really dig deep in terms of asking the right questions over and over again in terms of what success will look like. And many a time success may not look in revenues, but it can be looked at in terms of the team cohesion, in terms of certain other aspects which are behavioral, which can be perceived, and you can get feedback through 360 tools and things like that. And those would possibly can be some of those so-called success factors that you then are kind of pre-arrange with your business leader, saying that let's have this intervention and then look at it after a year, after 2 years, because some of these interventions are not, you can't see the results immediately. And that is again a coaching moment for the business leader to say that this is not it's not a magic pill that we give to a manager or a team. And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. And I'll interrupt you when I interrupt you.
Oh, okay. So that's another coaching moment for the business leader. Saying that this is where what we are trying to do, how will it help, and what will success possibly look like in a year or 2 years, and how we'll measure it.
Okay, the question I have, or the concern I have, is very similar to what Nga put there. And if you recall, LCV did a survey, and from an organization point of view, we find it very difficult to, we know it works, we know it's perfect, and it fits, and this is it, but it's very difficult to measure success, as you said, right? And I'm glad that at VNG, you can touch it, you can measure it, and you can feel it. Now, put yourself as an HR leader. What can you do for your leaders? Give us some hints, tips on how to convince the leader, as you say, coach the leader, but I cannot propose LCV to coach my boss, right? So what can I do as HR manager, as a business development director, whatever, to get my boss approved?
So this is under the assumption that the HR managers have had a bit of coaching understanding and are able to coach. Okay, yes. So that's right. So they're able to have a conversation with their business leaders in a coaching environment. Right? Now, as I again said, it's not about many a times the HR managers become a salespeople that yes, we should actually do a coaching intervention, right? It is, coaching cannot be sold. It has to be, the need has to be, you have to create a need from a business standpoint. And I understand from the survey that the business will say, okay, if I'm spending X thousand dollars, what will it have as an impact? What return on investment will I have? And therefore, trying to understand what's what's in it for me kind of a situation for the business leader. You need to therefore tailor your proposal accordingly. And it's not, again, as I said, it's not a sales pitch, but it is about, there are times like on this is, if you don't do this, what is the opportunity cost that you will lose? Right. So you can position it in a manner that, let's assume that we don't do any intervention with this particular team. What are some of the opportunity costs that we will lose? Either the manager would be so toxic, and I'm talking about, let's say the different scenarios, right? So the most common coaching intervention would be either a team is disjointed, is not or dysfunctional, and you need an intervention to get the team together. Number two, there is a new manager, there is a transition coaching that you are probably looking at. so that the manager is able to transition into a new role and able to deliver. Number 3 is you have identified certain high potential and they are part of the succession pipeline, and you need to really get them to coach in certain projects and things like that. So those are 3 or 4, I'm saying, scenarios where you would probably get your business leaders to approve.
Okay.
And then you kind of go backwards and say that, okay, if you don't do this, what are we losing? Either the team will be dysfunctional, you will not meet your numbers, and you will have attrition. Or if they are high potential, if you don't do anything, they will probably continue to remain the same, and they will not move to your succession pipeline the way you're looking at, and therefore we are losing. So that's the other way of looking at it. Many a times it may not be able to be quantified, but you can then say that if you don't do this, the opportunity cost to not doing an intervention is high.
I will go to Trâm in a minute, but what I hear from you is just interesting because it fits somehow with the survey, where I see the importance of communication up, to the boss and to the peers on the impact of coaching and how to measure it. And it's reflected very clearly in the survey. Now, very quick one. Do you think an HR manager should learn coaching, or at least to be a coach?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think part and parcel of an HR manager's job in the new way of how HR is evolving in organizations, as if you want to be true business partners, you have to understand the tenets of how you can get into a coaching situation or lean into a coaching situation. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Trâm, in your experience, I'm sure you have good experience, bad experience. Let's talk about the good experience first. How do others convince the boss to go ahead with the coaching for organization?
Yeah. Before answering your questions, I'd like to go back to the point of measurable, methods or tools. Yeah, how to measure the impacts of coaching. I completely understand where you come from. I mean, the leaders and HR people, that you feel like with that, it would be much easier to convince yourself and convince your boss and convince other peers or parties in organization, and hey, let's start doing this together. I completely understand. And also from the investment point of view, it's also easier for the business owners and business leaders to make decision on how much you should invest on this. But I would put it the other way around. Why it must always be measurable by numbers, by figures and statistics. Put it this way. As a leader, I'm sure that you know what's really going on in the organization if you really listen and if you really care. If as a business leader, if you observe and if you're honest to yourself, you would know what's really going on in the organization. It's really hard to fool yourself. Let me be straightforward on this point. And when the pain points is there, when you acknowledge your pain points, when you acknowledge the challenges of the organization is facing with, you would know what you should do. So I completely agree with Abhishek on the point that coaching is not a product to sell. You don't come to your boss as an HR leader. If you have your boss so buy in with this and really want to make change to the organization, congratulations, you have a really good starting point. But if not, don't talk about coaching yet. Don't talk about the solution yet. Talk about the difficulties and the real challenges that the organization is facing with. You have an open discussion with the boss. What do you think? What do you see? What do you think? What are the challenges that we're really facing with all the, the culture and the organization, the environment, the pressure that people are having with, starting with that. And don't come with a solution yet. When you have open conversation about that. That actually a coaching conversation as well. we talk about conversation and coaching conversation. That's the coaching conversation that an HR person can start with your boss, with your leaders in the organization. What are real, and they cannot, it's really hard to fool themselves, not to face with it. If you really want to have improvement, if you really want to bring your organization to the next level. So when people are aware of that, here you come with a solution, and coaching can be one of them. And you know what I mean. Now let's move to the business side. Now many companies, you want to interrupt?
I promise I don't want to interrupt monetize, but since you say this, you say don't go to the boss with the issues, and don't go with the boss to the boss with the solution. Coaching will save the world. Don't do that. But go with the issue. Which make me link with the survey that we just did for in LCV. What was very clear to me, crystal clear, is why organizations do coaching. They don't do it for charity. I don't do it because I want to be the business of the world or the month or whatever. I do it as a company because I want to improve efficiency. I want to fix issues. I want to prove, I want to grow the business. So that's why I interrupt you, John, because it is a very nice of what you just said about role approach to the issue. And if the boss is aware or is listened, he will know that the issues are real. And to address it, there's a menu of things, and coaching could be on the top. Yeah. So I'll give you back to continue what you just said.
Yeah, I just want to say, go to the business side. Nowadays, we don't talk about customer service anymore. We talk about customer experience. And you do the same thing. Go to interview your clients, your customers, right? You have conversations with them to understand their real needs. And maybe they are not aware of their needs before talking with you. So you come there, you really understand them, and then you offer the solution. You don't go with the traditional sales approach anymore that hey, I have a product, this is really nice and really cool, and I think you should use it. You don't do it anymore. It's the same thing. So don't go with, hey, this is something really cool and we should do it, everyone does it. No, go with the real, and also that's because you really care as an HR person or a leader in the organization. You really care about how to improve this and how to bring the organization to the next level. And with that authentic purpose, I believe that it would be much more, let's say, touching to the decision makers, and the approach would be very much different. Would be much different.
Okay. Authenticity. We really want to help people. So I hope the answers from the speakers satisfying with a very good question on how do I get my boss approval for this is very, very good one. Now, it's a bit straight, maybe too straight. So if I do coaching in my company, I will convert the individual contributor into people leader.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
So we all want to be a leader. Unfortunately, in a company, you have people who do the work, contribute, right. Individual contributor. There's no team, there's not a leader. So am I correct by assuming that if I do deploy a coaching culture in my company, I can convert an individual contributor into a great people leader?
You want to go first, Jeff?
And by the way, it's not my question, it's the question from Ha Jun, which I thought beautiful.
Okay, I can go first on that. I think the way you're framing that a coaching culture will help an individual contributor to become a good people manager is partially correct, but it's not. Coaching culture is just not to move an individual contributor to a people manager. As we were discussing, coaching culture is more around how you really build a psychological safety environment, how you're able to create an environment where people can accept mistakes, can raise their hands and things like that. Now, if that's the culture that you want to build as an organization, individual contributors, when they become people managers, they need to be the training, and most organizations have this first line manager or first time manager program. One of the things that needs to be highlighted to them is, now that you are responsible for a little, not only your performance, but also other team members, is how do you really continue to really nurture the psychological safety within your teams? How are we able to create a sense of security in that individual to say that you are good enough? The reason why you have moved from an individual contributor to a manager is because the organization believes in your strengths. There are the areas that you need to obviously focus on, and that's a journey that every one of us goes through. But if there is something, if there is an external help that you require in that journey for your own personal journey, we have this list of coaches that you can actually partner with and go through your self-discovery journey that hopefully can help you become a better people manager. Now, that's overall as a program in an organization. You can call that as a coaching culture, but to me, that's fundamental to help individual contributors become better people managers, and hopefully then they are able to help other individual contributors in their teams to get onto their people manager journey. So that's how I will probably look at it.
John?
Yeah, sure. From my point of view, it doesn't matter what role you're playing in the organization, if you have direct reports or not, if someone reporting to you, or you're working as an individual contributor. It doesn't matter what role you play. You can still be always a leader. And if you are having the impact, the influence, and let's say positive, of course we expect to have positive influence on others, then you actually are a leader of the organization. Or on the social media nowadays, they say the KOL, and you can be the KOL, the key opinions leaders inside the organization as well. So first of all, it doesn't matter. It's not about the position that you're playing. And when we talk about leading people and, especially with the coaching style, if you can ignite provoke the thoughts and the thinking of from other people, ignite all the potentials inside them with questions, if you can support them to express their thinking, their thoughts, if you can help them to, if you can challenge them, but also support them to, to test the stress ideas in their work, where appropriate, of course, and where you can, if you can, have some very thought-provoking questions that can help people to really, rethink and reflect on what they're doing and how they can do it better. You actually are coaching leaders. I put it that way. So you, by doing all those, you can have impacts, short in length, but strong in impact. So if you can do that to people around you, no matter if they are reporting to you or not, you can become leaders. So yes, if to answer the questions from Ting, right? Yeah, I believe that it's a yes. It's a yes. And eventually, leaders is about growing people. It's not about you achieving what in your work only. It's about developing people as well. So if you can do all of those, yeah.
Absolutely, and I think we get the common ground here. Leader doesn't mean you can lead yourself and think you'll get better of yourself. Is how coaching can help you. But that also addressed one of the misunderstanding, at least from where I see, is that if as a company, we do talent review, we decide this person will lead a team of 5 people in 18 months or 12 months. What do? Let's give him a coach, and then we give him a coach. This misunderstanding of the coach is the solution. whether the person really want to be the leader of the team, or anything. So just to move past this topic of coaching is there, but you need to use it properly and smartly. It's not because the more you come, hey, it's a coach. How do we do to improve the guy? Hey, it's coaching. I have the issue with the regional sales managers in this area. This is a coach. That is not, to me, a coaching culture, right? Oh. Now, yes.
No, absolutely. I think, and that's where at times the HR function kind of loses credibility, because they kind of try to use coaching as the panacea for all the ills that are facing a team, etc. And that's not the case. I think to just understand what exactly is the problem and whether coaching can be a solution, or it can be multiple options of solutions that can be there, possibly. But don't just try to force fit coaching as the only solution for all the problems that the team or the organization is facing.
To all the HR professionals out there, I do not mean this is HR thing. I think this is a general thing happening in the company. Now I have two more topics, so I have 15 minutes to address, and I guess it will be a bit direct to Abhishek to some extent. If you are to restart, I know you get some results, I know you get some progress, and you can feel, you can touch it. If you are to restart, what would you do differently?
Obviously, if I'm the business leader, I would want to not wait for 2 years to see some results. I would want to get some results. But I think if I have to think back, I think we did not start with a very particular developing a coaching culture kind of a thing, right? If I have to really start all over again, we probably will think a little deep and see as to how we can embed aspects of and create a very focused program. We kind of got it a little more. We just let it grow organically, and then put a program in place. But honestly, if I have to look back and see where we are, I'm really happy with the way things have gone, and where we are today. There is, because when things grow organically, when people kind of realize the fruits of what we have tried and not forced them to do it, you have long-lasting impact. And now we have our team leaders and our department heads are a lot more bought into this whole change, rather than, like, at the beginning they were skeptical about this because it was getting them out of their comfort zone. So I'll probably not change much from how we approached. We approached it in a very experimentation mode, to say that we are also doing it for the first time, and let's learn together.
Okay. Just building on this, the way I see it, when we go in and do coaching, there are two types. When that's addressed, the two questions I have here. I have managers who are the managers because the years of service.
Yeah.
Right? Like me, I'm more than 10 in one company. Yeah. So they have no choice but put me a manager.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever you do in coaching with this mindset, that's the question I want to ask. Yeah. Now, on the opposite, if you do it so well, you apply coaching, you as coach usually say you ignite your awareness and creativity, provoke the thinking, they feel better of themselves and they leave the company.
Right. Yeah.
In bunches, in mass. How do you do with this situation?
Yeah. So the first thing, I believe that, as I said, coaching is not the panacea for everything. You can only use coaching if the other person is receptive of and understand that there are certain things that need to be developed. Right? there will be certain people who will not be on board with the agenda that as an organization you're trying to set. You can try to influence, but then you will have to take a call at a point in time where either they are on board or they are not. In our journey, in the example that I shared, there were some people who were not in the scheme of things, and therefore we had to change them from a role perspective, from the overall functional structure that the future that we were looking at. And that's a call that both HR and the business leader have to be aligned to take. And I can absolutely hand on heart share that sometimes these are tough conversations, because some of those individuals might be your best performers, but they are not on board. And therefore, as a business leader in HR, you will have to therefore have those tough conversations with those individuals to say that this is what is harming you as an individual or as a business, and therefore we need some changes. You need help, or there is a structural change that we might have to do. But that alignment with the head of the business and the HR is so critical and so important, because you can't make those changes either as a business alone or as an HR alone. So that's your first question. The second is, what happens if you really work with some individuals who really then get an aha moment, they figure out what they want in life, and probably the role that they're doing is not what they feel. Honestly, that is fine by me. If they do that, they will be open to have that conversation with you as an individual, as the HR, as a business. And if you're able to figure out within the organizational structure that you have, if you're able to provide that clarity and that support to that individual, great. If not, you kind of wish them well and let them live and fulfill their potential somewhere else. You still will have the connection. You still will, and who knows, our paths might cross at a later stage, and the person will be thankful, helpful, and gracious, and will have gratitude that they got that opportunity to do that. So I believe that it's our way of contributing to the world in general.
Okay, Trâm, if you were at the same time both head, HR and LCV, how do you answer to that question?
Yeah, this is where I would jump in. That coaching conversation or coaching culture is not only about motivating people, developing people, and again, do more. It's also creating a very good environment or safe environment for you to have difficult conversations and giving difficult feedbacks to your people. That's where it comes from. It comes in. And for those situations that people have no more motivations in their work, before making tough decisions or making any decisions, you can also have a conversation with them to really understand what's going on. As I usually shared with my clients, that no one suddenly become a very demotivated person in a positions. There must be some things going on inside their head that we're not aware of, or maybe we never ever let them to have chance to talk about it. So, this is where you can have the conversation with the person to understand what's going on and giving feedback very directly, that this is what I observe, and definitely is a supportive behavior that we want to see in a team, something like that, But when you come in with a person with a mindset that you really want to help them, or help them here is much bigger than they doing their job well inside the organization. We want to help them with what is the best for them in their life. And it can be a decision of leaving the company or leaving the position if it's not suitable for them anymore. But our approach is still very human being, as I said, and still very, very supportive. And you can still have the difficult conversations with your people when you have that kind of coaching culture and coaching mindset. And go to the other side. What if you develop and they leave? one of our audience, Miss Nga, said, so what if you don't invest and they stay? You know, for me, it's the abundance mindset. We believe that it's we don't approach people with the scares that they would leave us one day, and you trying everything to make them stay. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the time they with us. It's the best time we can have together, and long or short, it depends. And it's hard to say, you know, that it's good or bad. That's from my perspective, to put it that way.
Okay, thank you. And time, we are about to reach the time. I believe we, through the conversation, you know, we have an idea of how to get support from the bosses and to implement coaching. We have a few tricks or good things that we can implement from our two speakers. Now, I give you to each 1-2 minutes. And the question I have very quickly, how do I start? And that is one. The second question, I know coaching, you can ask second question at the same time, but just, how do we start? And what do we need to watch out when we start? Okay, because I don't want others to do it and realize, oh shit, we go to this.
Yeah. Okay, I can just quickly. The first thing, and I'm talking to my fellow HR practitioners who want to create a coaching culture in their organizations, right? I think the first thing that they need to ask for themselves is, why do they want a coaching culture? Like, all that what they have heard is something that resonates with them. Then I understand that, yes, this is what they want to look at. But then reflect on their own organization, their senior leaders, and see how much of that journey they have to travel to build that foundation of the psychological safety that they need to build, right? So that's the first thing. My assumption and my is that there is a huge journey that as an HR professional that you might have to take in your organization to do that. But don't get disheartened if you see there is a huge gap. Experiment, do a pilot. So look at which particular business unit or a department you want to experiment with. Which of your department or senior leaders are more receptive to these ideas, and have a conversation with them. Understand what is the business challenge that they are having, and where are some gaps from a people standpoint. And have an open conversation with that business leader to say, are you open to having things like these that we can kind of deploy, and work with that, create that pilot and create the success in one small area of your organization, then showcase it to others. Hopefully you should be able to get the support of the larger organization once you see some success in small area.
Perfect, thank you. And Trâm?
Yeah, I would start with always start with the top leaders first, and start with the mindset part, not the activities parts. And this also some misunderstanding and some myths that people who deploy these activities or strategy in the organization usually, make, or I would say like a mistake that we usually make, that we come up with a list of activities and a plan before we are very clear on the mindset part. And the mindset should start from the top leaders. And I would like to echo on what Abhishek had just shared. Have the clear end goal in mind, how you want it to look like, what you want to achieve, why it matters, why it's important to your organization, and what do we really want to achieve in this when doing all of this. So start with all of those, the mindset, and it's very clear, and do it very, I would say, robustly, very comprehensively, not like a list of activities that you want to tick the box that I completed everything. No, not at all. So that's why LCB, when we work with our clients, we don't have one program to offer and to deliver to every same client with the same curriculum, not at all. We interview one of them to see what's really going on there, what is the real pain points that they're facing with, and then from there we come up with a solution. And you as a leader in the organization, you can do the same and start with what difficulties, what you want to have in end goal, what the reality that you're facing with, and then you see the gap, and from there you know where to start with. One thing that you need to watch out when you're doing all of this, again, I would say it comes from the top leaders. If you really walk the talk, if you talk about, you tell your people, don't be afraid to share your ideas, but you punish them on the other side. You punish them for disagreeing with you or other leaders, and who trusts you? When saying that, you only say that don't be afraid to make mistake, but you hide away to talk about your own mistakes. Who would trust you? Who would believe you in doing those? So walk the talk would be very, very important. But I know that it's very difficult with all the pressures that the leaders are facing with. I completely understand how difficult it is, but that's what you need to focus on. And again, it would be always really helpful and wonderful if you can have a support. I'm not selling LCV, but I'm talking about someone can have a very objective view, can help you to see your blind spots. That would be very helpful. So if your resource around you, you can have professional help. But if not, an HR person can also play a role as a coach for the organization, where you have, you are allowed to point out on the blind spots or the hidden challenges or difficulties or pinpoints that the organization are facing with. The HR person can always play that role with a great support from the top leaders of the organization. So that's what I would share with our audience. So start with the leaders, start with the mindset. We start with what you really want to achieve as the end goal. And from there, see the reality, face with the gaps, and we go from there.
All right. So Thank you very much, our dear speakers. I know it's not easy, comfortable to share this, but appreciate on behalf of the audience. I would like to thank you, Abhishek and Trâm, for this sharing. And for those who, of course, we're going to have the normal feedback, so we can learn as part of the coaching culture that we learn from what we do. So I appreciate if you can spend minutes to do the feedback, and just do a pre-sale. At 1:30, we're going to start again, and this time Vân Anh will lead, I promise, a very good conversation with the father of team coaching, Mr. David Clutterbuck. So for anyone who want to continue this story, it's about coaching culture, and then we go a bit, to the team, to the group. How do we do that? Stay tuned at 1:30, and thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you, everyone. See you again.